everyone. Welcome to the newest episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. Today's guest joins me from Orange County, California. She's a dream pop singer-songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist whose debut album 5 a.m. and I Can't Sleep is out right now via Bayonet Records. Before we get the episode started, please make sure to like and subscribe to this podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. And don't forget to follow me at Parker Whirling and at onthatnote_podcast on Instagram. And on that note, please welcome Kelz. Before we start the episode, I want to tell you guys about something new that I've been drinking called Up to Good. They're a sustainably minded brand making sparkling caffeinated drinks from upcycled cascara. If you don't know what cascara is, it comes from the exact same plant as coffee, where coffee beans are the seed and cascara is the fruit. This is what gives Up to Good its distinct tea-like flavor and also what naturally caffeinates it, which has been amazing for late night writing sessions when I need a little boost without the jitters, you know? They offer 3 all-natural flavors: cascara mint, lemon ginger, and hibiscus berry. My personal favorite is the cascara mint that I have right here. If you want to check them out, they're on Instagram at uptogoodenergy or order from their site, uptogoodenergy.com. You can even get a $5 off discount for their sampler box, which includes one of each of their flavors at uptogoodenergy.com by typing in the promo code OTN5OFF. That's OTN, the number 5, off, all caps, no spaces, for $5 off of their sampler box. I'm sitting here with Kelz, a dream pop singer-songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist out of Orange County, California. I found her music on Spotify's Fresh Finds Indie page. Her album 5 a.m. and I Can't Sleep is amazing. Debut album released May 6th. It's only 8 songs, but it feels like a whole experience. The songs are really like washing into one of another. The whole thing feels almost like a dream. I'd love to ask about the writing and the recording process. What does the typical day for you look like when you were making this album?
For this album, oh man, it was very interesting because I mean, it's kind of in the song title too, 5 a.m. So I think naturally, yeah, but for most of these songs, I wouldn't start writing them until late at night. I still live with my family, so of course during the day, it's very hard to record and write just because of noise. So the typical day-to-day for this is that it was during 2022. So I would just go out during my day, just living my life, and meanwhile experiencing all these different feelings and events in my life. Which would then inspire me and motivate me to just write at the end of the day. I just feel like the end of the day is where you tend to reflect a lot on what's happened so far. And for me, I found comfort and as like a safe haven for me. As the night is starting to wind down, everyone's starting to go to sleep. And there's something so quiet yet very peaceful about, for me, writing toward the end of the night. And yeah, so from all these songs, they would start around maybe midnight, and they would tend to go on and be worked on like bits by until like the early morning, I guess you could say that. And yeah, these songs were worked upon months and months at a time. And you could hear, I think for me, it's very interesting to hear myself like kind of progress in my songwriting too. So I think for me, like when you look at the track order for the whole album, that order of the songs, that was the order that I actually wrote the songs as time progressed. And I think for me, it was very interesting to hear myself growing in terms of my skills and all the different techniques that I would use. But all of this was experimented late at night. Yeah, that's the overall theme for sure.
That's wild that they're all in order of how you started it. Did it feel weird listening back to it and knowing that there's a clear beginning and end?
Yeah, I think I would say so, especially for the earlier songs, such as I think the first one's "Guitar and Peaches" and "Nice to See You." I think those first two, yeah, as time progressed, as the months progressed, like I did tend to forget about them, and I think towards the end of the year when I was starting to like recollect and just sit back and see what I have so far, listening back to those two, it was such a big change from my perspective. Just because I think lyrically and who I was at that time was just so different to where I was at the end of the song cycle, for sure.
What particularly changed for you when you look back on it from the beginning to the end? What do you think is a very specific change? Was it more mental? Was it artistic or, emotional?
Definitely a combination of all those three elements. If I'm talking about um, emotionally and mentally first, yeah, I think for example with Guitar and Peaches, I wrote that in January. I think technically I wrote that in 2019. I started the idea with like as a small like 4-bar loop, and I didn't really finish it until maybe March. It did undergo some changes towards the end, but yeah, it was until March or January ish that I finalized that song. But I think for me, who I was at that time, it was just it's definitely before the pandemic. So before that, I was just very excited to live out the world, explore and travel and experience new things. It was very liberating. But I think as time progressed, I started dealing with a lot of like family events that really changed the course of who I was experiencing and like what I was so hard to articulate, but it's just like, yeah, definitely something a lot that a 19-year-old at the time should experience, in my opinion, when I reflect back now. So for me, trying to express all those feelings and thoughts, yeah, I found it comforting to do that through music. I think for me, emotionally and mentally, again, I think compared to the beginning of the album, I think I just definitely felt more of a reality check for me. Um, I think for me, a big theme of the album is that we're all stuck in this inevitable cycle of life, of like pain, remorse, and grief for sure. And I think for me, I think a big part of me mentally was realizing that it's not gonna be all sunshine and rainbows all the time. And for me, a big thing was just realizing that, yeah, no one can really help change me. I think change has to be brought from within myself. Um, so that was like a big part of who I was at the end of this album. And I think for me too, I did realize that despite all this pain and all these like bad negative feelings I felt, I think it's all gonna be okay. But time is definitely, yeah, time helps a lot. Time helps heal. That was a big thing I realized for sure.
That's very well said. It is interesting how when bad things happen to you or around you, it can be really hard to process exactly what's going on or exactly how you're feeling about it. And being able to chronicle those thoughts and feelings into music is a really cool time capsule, almost in a way that in a few years time you can listen back to it and it'll take you back to a very specific place that you were in that moment, and it's very therapeutic as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think the DJ and music producer Toki Mansa, I think one of something she said in an interview like years ago that always like stood out to me was how she said that when she reflects back on her old productions for music, like she likes it, but of course there are things that she would change now, but she still refuses to go back and like do those edits because, like you said, it is like a time capsule of who she was back then. So I think for me, I always like remembered that too, years from now, and yeah, I think that still rings true for me.
So, what do you think with future projects or releases you have? What will you have learned from this album that you're going to take with you into the next?
I think the biggest thing for me to take away from this whole experience is that to be less hard on myself, for sure. I think naturally we're all like the harshest critics to ourselves. But I think for me, based on my experience, it's just me making all these songs and writing it. So of course it's very natural and easy for me to tend to be stuck in my head and want to be like a quote unquote perfectionist. But I think for me, like I've been having these moments again lately where I just been creating more and more. It's quite different, but I think for me, like when I'm sitting in my room just tinkering with all these new ideas, I think for me the thing that I try to tell myself is that just get the ideas out. Because I think I've had moments in the past where I tend to be so slow or lag, just getting the basic idea down because I'm just so in my head trying to get one type of trinket exactly precise, or yeah, but it doesn't have to be that way when the whole idea is just like having fun and just expressing how I feel in the moment. So that's like the biggest takeaway from that for me. Just being kinder to myself for sure. Yeah, I'm not used to doing that to myself at all before.
It's a lot harder than it seems sometimes. You know, some days it's a lot easier to feel yourself and to enjoy what you're doing and be in the moment. And sometimes you really forget that. It kind of goes back to what you're saying about cycles of life. There is a cycle of creativity as well. You know, when sometimes you're really out of it and nothing you write feels good. And then sometimes you're just on a roll and it feels like the floodgates have opened and all these great ideas are coming at you all at once and it's hard to even get them all down.
Yeah. It's like, I think for me, just as creators, it's so easy to get wrapped up in our heads. I think for me, what I realized too, during this whole process with the campaign and just writing, it just really reminded me, like, what am I doing exactly? And I think for me, like, yeah, I tend to get very wrapped up in my head again about what I have to figure out here and there. But yeah, just moments like this where I'm like just getting to finally just relax and rest again and just kind of do nothing. It just reminds me of what the reason why I do this in the first place is just, you know, it is to write for me initially and to express what I'm feeling at the time. And it is so cathartic and so euphoric every time. Yeah, it makes me happy.
That's why we do it. Makes us happy. Do you have a song that didn't make the cut for this album? And if so, in general, what does it take for a song that you've written to really make it on a project?
Ooh, the first song that comes to mind is this demo that I made called Golden Hour. Yeah, it was written in the middle of the summer, towards August. And I remember I made like a whole like elaborate demo for it. But I think in comparison to the rest of the other songs of the album, I think it was just too quote unquote happy for me. I think it was just about me driving up and down the coast and just catching all these sunsets. But yeah, the interesting thing about that song is that part of the melodies did inspire one of the other tracks on the album called I Can't Sleep. So I did take something away from it. But I think for this album too, for me, like when I think about what makes a cut and what doesn't, I think it does come down to the sound production wise too. I think for that song, it was definitely more based on live instruments, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But compared to the other songs, there was more of a balance of like electronic elements, which I liked a lot more. But yeah, I think for that song, yeah, I think sound-wise too, I think it did feel a bit more quote-unquote empty. I think, in my opinion, it was still, there's still a lot of kinks to still work out, but I think compared to the other demos, it just didn't make it. There was like another song that I think I did make after I finished all the songs on 5 a.m. And it's a demo that's up on my Spotify right now and like other platforms, called Sunday Miracle. Yeah, that one's definitely very electronic and is very like thumpy and very very energetic for sure. It's kind of chaotic in my opinion. And I think for a moment I did think about adding it to the album, but then I just realized too, in terms of the vision of 5 a.m. I Can't Sleep, it was written during a specific time period. And I think for Sunday Miracle, it was written after that. And at that point, I was starting to become someone new. So I think for me, theme-wise, it just didn't technically fit. But maybe in the next project, it'll be in there for sure.
Yeah, sometimes it's hard to even articulate why something doesn't quite fit in with other things. For me, it's kind of similar, like what you said, where it feels like a time period, like this period in your life. It makes sense that these 3, 4, however many songs are together, and anything after that or before just doesn't quite make sense because you've changed compared to what this set of songs is.
Yeah, I don't think there's necessarily a rush to always put out a collection of songs that you wrote. You have in the moment all together at once, you know. There's always time to do that later too.
Exactly. I want to switch over a little bit to your label, Bayonet Records, because I interviewed a band who I really like, who's also with Bayonet Records, Smut. I don't know if you're familiar with them.
Yeah, I met them at South by Southwest in Texas.
Yeah.
They were so cool and so sweet, for sure.
They're really sweet, and I would love to see them live one day. And also a big fan of Beach Fossils, who is repped by Bayonet as well. But I saw it was a funny story, how you guys got connected. Read your article with 360 Sound. It said you emailed them at first, your demos or your EP, and they were like, we're not sure if we like it, but we're not sure if it quite fits. And then the next day they were like, we can't get these songs out of our head. Let's talk. What was that feeling like when you got that email?
The first email or second email? Oh, the first email,
Both.
both. I think, the first email I got, they're just like, yeah, we really like this, but you're not looking for anything right now. I was like, cool. I wasn't really expecting anything at all when I initially emailed these demos to them. I think I was just so flattered, and I really appreciate that they took the time to even listen at the end of the day and even give me a reply saying, how they thought. So yeah, I felt fine, but I think I just quickly brushed it off and I just went about my day again. But I think the next day, I just woke up. I was getting ready for my 10 a.m. class on Zoom that day, and I was just checking my emails, and then I was on socials too, and I saw like one of the label managers from the label, they followed me. I was like, okay, cool. I think I didn't think too much about it, but I thought it was kind of random. And then I checked my emails more properly, and I saw it was a good reply from them saying, hey, I can't really get these songs out of my head. And I think for me, instantly, I felt so, I don't know, it's, oh god, I hope this doesn't sound too gross, but I felt so anxiously happy. I was kind of like, oh shit, this is cool. This is like, they replied to me and they want to like talk and get to know me. I remember just sitting on my bed, the edge of my bed, just like reading the reply. I was like, oh, all right, cool. And I sent it to my friends. And then but I felt so nerve-wracking that I had to go to the restroom and throw up for a bit, but in a good way though. It was a good way, but
a really good throw up.
Yeah, really good throw up. And then, yeah, and after that, I just logged onto Zoom and I just went about my classes on time. And then I think, but I remember that, yeah, I think the next day we were just on a Zoom call with each other. And yeah, I just remember it was very interesting. Like, for me, I've grown up in the suburbs. And here in Orange County, I never really grew up with a lot of other fellow creatives. It was very hard to find the right people that clicked and connected with me, at least in the same genre. And I've grown up with social anxiety too, so it's always been very hard for me to reach out to different people. Or I guess, maybe with the way I presented myself, maybe it was hard for people to come up to me too. But I was just very shy. And I think for me coming to this meeting with them, it was so different. It was, yeah, they were also so sweet and so welcoming. And yeah, little did I know that we'd stay in contact for a few more months and this whole album would come out. But I think the biggest thing that I told them from the get-go is that, yeah, I just want the best potential, the maximum potential for my music. Because of course, being independent, being here, there's only so much that I can do myself. But I think for me, what I've always dreamed and wanted for these songs when I was making them was that just for people to sing along and just dance it too, where it's not just me anymore. And that's exactly what they helped me do.
That's amazing. That helps me transition. I was going to ask, what do you feel about Bayonet makes them a great label to you? And then on the opposite end, what do you feel like are some red flags for labels, for artists who are interested in getting with a label, but maybe don't quite know what's a trap and what is a good opportunity?
Yeah, I think the first thing that comes to mind with Bayonet is just how they're not just my label, like they're also my friends too. And I can easily and confidently say that. Like when I refer to or talk about them with my friends, I refer to them as my friends. And it's interesting how they're my friends. And I think for me, the reason why they're so great is that I think for me, they feel like a family too, where they have my back as well. And yeah, it's not exactly just a business type of relationship. I think the reason why, they're all the way in the East Coast and I'm all the way here in the West Coast. And I think even though they're 2,500 miles away from me, I really always loved and appreciated how, whenever I do talk to them, they don't exactly feel far away. Because, yeah, I think I am the only one here all the way in the West. So for me, in the meantime, when I'm not with them or not in communication with them, I'm sitting here trying to figure out my own community and network. But whenever I do reach out to them and talk about how I'm feeling, yeah, this feels like they're right here. I think for me, in terms of looking for other labels, I'm trying to think about what are some red flags. I think the number one thing that people should look out for is that you shouldn't have to pay for anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I don't really know how to explain that more right now in this moment, but yeah, I think whenever some type of label or any other agency is looking for money from you out front, that's definitely a red flag. But yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know, I can't think of anything else right now, but I think I think it's important to find people who want to get to know you, and want to help you grow. And that's the biggest thing with Bayonet is that I think from the get-go too, one of the biggest things that they told me was that we're looking to grow with you. And I do really feel that growth with them.
That's awesome. I think in a way you don't even really have to have some solid red flags in mind because you've given such a good description of what a good relationship with your label is, that is what an artist would want to see or want to experience with a label, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's going to take us over to the last 5. I'm just going to ask you 5 quick questions and we'll be out of here.
All right, sounds good.
All right, number 1, in the studio or playing live?
Oh shit, that's fucking hard.
I was wondering what you were going to say because I read that you haven't played live too much.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say too. I'm still new to playing live. I think for me it's interesting. I think I'm definitely very comfortable being in the studio. But yeah, there are moments playing live. I'm still figuring out my live setup, but I think I finally got it. I think based on my recent live setup, it's kind of like a DJ kind of mix too, which is like really fun for me. So when I have enough time to do that, that's hard. Shoot. Oh, I'll just go simple and say in the studio.
Yeah, that's what I would have guessed, just because your music seems so like studio driven, electronic driven, you know. But I do love. I saw a picture of you playing live, and you were sitting on the floor with all your stuff. I'm like, that's a vibe right there, just chilling on the floor.
Yeah, I did like an acoustic set for in San Diego at my cousin's tea shop, and yeah, I was channeling my inner Grimes. With that right there. Yeah.
That's cool. It was on a tea shop too. That whole thing feels like a great vibe. All right, question number 2 is, what do you think is a perfect album front to back?
Ooh, easy. Soul. I Become a Shade. Soul is
Never heard of that.
Yeah, they're not a band anymore, unfortunately, but they're from Canada, and
from where?
Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think in Montreal. I believe so. But they made this whole indie electronic album, front to finish. It was so beautiful. I think their sound really inspired me for this album too. During the making of it, and I wish I could thank them. But yeah, Souls, I Become a Shade.
I Become a Shade. I'm looking it up right now. Cool. I love asking that question because I get some really good recommendations. Question number 3 is, who would be your dream artist and or producer to work with?
Toro y Moi.
That's my first one I wrote down here. I always try to think of a few that I would pick, and that's literally the first one I have written down.
He's amazing.
Yes.
I think it's like, it's like how I love the Beatles. I think for me, like when you look at the Beatles like albums, they're all so different over time, right?
Yeah.
It's like an evolution. I think for me, like I would say that for Chaz, like his music is very similar to that, where like every album is quite different, but it's also still him too, you can tell. But I would love to work with him, or even just like be in the studio and just like to see how he works. I would love to just observe and like see that. Another artist though that I would love to just watch do their thing is Echo 2K though. I don't know if you've heard of him.
I do know him. That's his album has like just the big E.
Yeah.
I haven't really listened to it, but is it good?
It's super good. I think when I first listened to his music, I only liked like a few songs. But I think, I guess like times are different, and then I guess who I am now, I guess I kind of relate more to what they call the Drain Gang kind of
I was going to say,
mindset.
Isn't he part of the Drain Gang? That's funny.
Yeah, so it's very, very emo, sadcore type of music and lyrics. So yeah, I relate to that a lot.
That's awesome. That's funny. That unexpected. I have 2 that I wrote down because I just love trying to see what might be an interesting pair. Washed Out was one that came to mind.
Ooh.
And then the other one, I'm curious if you know them, A Beacon School.
I love A Beacon School.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. No, It's Late. His song It's Late is so beautiful. It's like, I think what that artist I mentioned earlier called Soul. I would say since Soul doesn't make music anymore, the next artist or band that comes so close to them to me is A Beacon School. Yeah.
That's cool. That's awesome.
I love his new song Dot. It's just so beautiful.
Yeah, I listened to it the other day, but I've only heard it once, so I need to give it a few more spins. But that's sick, because I heard your songs. I'm like, this kind of reminds me of It's Late. I love that album
so sweet.
too.
Yeah, I think someone else said that too, which is so flattering for me. I love the way he chops up his sounds.
Yeah.
Like his guitar sounds. So I definitely carry that inspiration too.
Absolutely. Question number 4 is what's on your musical rotation right now?
Let me see. I think I've been listening back to a lot of Tame Impala.
Okay.
Because I think he's coming to Desert Days.
Yeah, they're playing all of Lonerism, I think.
Yeah, so I think I'm trying to prep back to that right now. What else? Yeah, I think besides that, I've been listening to trying to get into FKA Twigs.
Oh, dude, yeah, her new album or mixtape is amazing.
I'm still new, so I'm definitely still learning, but right now Meta Angel is like stuck in my mind right now.
Yeah, which album is it on? Is that on Capri Songs?
Yeah.
I don't know it as much as like Mary Magdalene? The one that was before that, but everything I've heard is awesome. It's like such a crazy amount of sounds and like the production is ridiculous.
It's super interesting too. I think I didn't realize that Nicholas Jar produced some of her songs too. I never realized that. I was like, oh shoot, yeah, I definitely gotta check it out more.
Yeah, I didn't know who he was until I started listening to FKA Twigs, and then I started kind of checking out some of his stuff, and he's a crazy producer.
Mm-hmm.
All right, my last question here. I usually ask favorite decade of music, but sometimes if something strikes me in the interview, I'll change it up. And that would be because I love Toro y Moi, you love Toro y Moi. What are your top 3 albums of his?
I'm thinking right now. Let's see. I think just saying the top 3 right now. Definitely Boo Boo, Outer Peace, and the third spot is either gonna be. I mean, I think the first one that really hooked me into his music is Causers of This.
Okay, yeah.
But right now, I don't know. There's something about Mahal that I really do appreciate as I keep listening to it.
I agree.
But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think definitely right now I would say Boo Boo is number 1, and Outer Peace 2, and yeah, I think so. Like the order that I said, Mahal or Causers of This is number 3 for me.
I'm kind of surprised Anything in Return isn't in there.
I was just about to say that too.
Yeah, because that's the one that hooked me. Hearing Heart and Change, I think is what it's called, the first song. When I first heard that, it blew me away.
You're talking about the second album, right?
I don't know if it's the second one. It's the one with like he's holding the glasses. It's like this cool artsy picture. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, that one's great too. That one's great too.
But
I think
and then like I'll forget about how many good ones he has. Like I love oh my god, what's the name of it? The one with him just in front of like a cool background. It's really summery looking. I'm blanking on it right now.
It's very based on live instruments, correct?
Yes, that's the one. Let me look it up quick. But you know what's funny? I was with my girlfriend. Shout out to Erin, and we went to Asheville for like her birthday trip. And on the way there, the day that we left, Mahal came out, and I was like, "Oh, let me show you Toro y Moi. Let's listen to the new album." She never really even heard him, and she liked it a lot, so she wanted to listen to more. So we listened to Anything in Return and what's it called, Outer Peace.
Yeah.
And she loved it all. We're like, "Oh, this is great." And then the next day, I saw he was playing in Asheville the day we were there. So
Did you go?
Yeah, last minute we went to the venue, picked up the tickets right there, and it was so sick. It was like such a happy coincidence, and it was one of like the coolest concerts I've been to.
I think that concert was filmed. I think and then posted on YouTube.
Oh, really?
Just recently. I think so, in full. If I'm remembering correctly. But yeah, it looks super fun. So I'm super jealous. I think the next time he's back here in LA, I'm definitely gonna go catch him.
Yeah, he opened for Kruangbin, which some people are super into. I wouldn't say anything bad about them. It's just not like my go-to.
Yeah.
So it made me, I was still very excited I saw him, but it made me want to see him as a headliner, you know?
Yeah. I think I saw on YouTube his set. I think he played at a festival in the Bay in San Francisco. And I just love the way that he meshed like different songs together and kind of had it flow. So I definitely take a lot of inspiration from the way he curates and like plans out his set too. But it's always such a vibe. I think I recently was at work and I was just sitting at this tiny room, this tiny office room, and he did like a live stream of the show. And I just popped up the live stream with my coworker, and we were just watching it the whole time. And they were playing at like a forest, and it looked super, super, super fun. Everyone was just like chilling out, sitting on the grass, and just like dancing and vibing out. And I was just so jealous. But I felt like, his music just helps me feel so nostalgic, but also there doesn't have to be any specific feelings too, besides just like vibing out as well.
Yeah, just good times. All of his music is such good vibes.
Mm-hmm.
All right, cool. Kelz, that's our time here. On that note, I appreciate you joining me for an episode. Everybody's got to go check out 5 a.m. and I Can't Sleep. It's just like Tori and Moi. It's good vibes, the whole album. And I appreciate you coming on and talking with me. It's been a pleasure.
Cool, thanks so much. I'm so happy to be on that note.
Thank you. All right, Kelz, I'll talk to you later.
All right, see ya. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye. Thank you again for joining me for another episode of On That Note with Parker Whirling. If you haven't yet, please make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube and Apple Podcasts, and you can even leave a comment down below to let me know who you're listening to. On that note, I'll see you guys next time.